It's Jeremy from jeremy.net. So this is my monthly figure drawing purge where I go through all the drawings from figure drawing class and pick the ones that I'm going to include as images on to accompany my blog posts. And, just some that a few that I'm going to keep and most that I'm not going to keep. And I've got a big stack here because there's also a few from February as well as March. So let's just get started. This page, I'm not going to keep any of the ones from here. This one is probably the one I like the most, but I have a bad habit of liking drawings simply because they have got darker lines and appear more finished when they aren't necessarily structurally sound. And this one feels like it's a little bit like there's not enough cranium here in comparison to her face. I think I made her face a little bit too big in comparison to the rest of her body. And then this one just sort of unfinished and a little too light. And I should tell you that right now I'm going through a phase where I'm really not happy with a lot of my figure drawings. This is true of many artists. We go through periods where we're not happy with our work. In fact, most of the time we're not happy with our work. For me, the specificity here is not just tearing apart my work and saying, oh, it sucks. It's about being able to say specifically, what are the problems that I'm not addressing? And out of this whole page, I would say that the proportions of the face in comparison to the size of the skull are all definitely off. This one is probably the best out of the bunch. I think I might post this one only because there's so many in this stack that I know that I'm not particularly happy with. That it's kind of sad that I'm picking drawings by default. I may not ever even end up posting this one. But I'm finding that I am having a pretty consistent problem with a lot of my drawings, just in the fact that because I spend so much time trying to get the basic volumes and structures down, and a lot of times I fail even at that, that I have a lot of drawings that just feel, I don't mind loose. I prefer loose. I'm a loose, sketchy artist by nature. But I have so many drawings that feel completely unfinished that like there's nothing on this page I'm going to put in. These are all super rough, just construction drawings. And I'm not against posting drawings that are about construction on my page, but that's if there's something educational to be learned from it. You can look at it and say, oh, there's an important reason why this is a good explanation of how something is put together or structured. And I'm not going to post any of the stuff from this page. These are some studies from Carl Ganas. Like, he usually does demos for us in class, and I usually tend to draw with him in class. Like, some artists, some students do, some students don't. But usually when an instructor is demoing for me in a figure drawing class, I'll tend to draw what they're demoing and try to work my way through what they're explaining so I can see it in front of me on the page. Let's see. All of these, the faces are just out of proportion. And I think I was trying to give more space to the underside of the chin so I could actually work on capturing that subtle turn and learning how to describe the underside of the form better. But this has none of it. The skull, I'm drawing too much skull for being this low of an angle and showing too much chin. On this one, just the proportions between the nose, the eyes, and the mouth are all like the nose is pretty too exaggerated. And that's another problem I'm finding. Like this one, this side of the mouth is definitely too short in comparison to that. There's a lot of proportion problems I've been having lately. And I put that up to the fact that lately I've only been drawing in figure drawing class and then doing my comic book work. And I know for a fact that my work is better when I take these drawings and do studies outside of class where I try to redraw them and understand what I'm doing wrong and where I'm going wrong with things. In fact, I think that last page has enough really bad construction problems. I'm going to save that one to do a little figure drawing disaster analysis where I go over the bad drawings and redraw them. I haven't done one of those in a while. I need to get back to that. There's nothing in this page I feel particularly captures anything that's worth adding to the blog. I mean, a lot of it is just I'm having the same problems over and over again. Very unfinished as opposed to loose, and poor proportions. So it sucks a little bit in the sense that I'm going through all these drawings, and it's like a lot of the criticism I'm having are kind of the same mistake over and over again. These are super loose drawings. The model was doing expressions for us, and I don't think I really did a good job of capturing the expressions or the volumes. They tended to be shorter poses because it's really hard for a model to hold a facial expression for an extended period of time. I mean, if you think standing or leaning in a certain posture is rough, holding your facial muscles with the same expression for a long period of time must be torture for them. This one I like. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about loose. I naturally do not draw every single detail and every single line. I don't tend to draw things that are completely lined up. I have lines that come off, stray, and loosely construct the form. But this particular drawing does feel like it has a sense of, for the level of detail it has, which is not a lot of detail, for the level of finish, which is not a lot. I think this was probably like it couldn't have been more than an 8-minute pose. It was probably like a 6 or an 8-minute pose the model was doing. For the amount of time we had, this feels like it captures everything that I was trying to say. It feels like you actually get a sense of the hand, the chin resting on the hand, the thumb, the arm coming down from the wrist. All the things that are supposed to be in there feel like they're described. So this one drawing, yeah, I'm going to photograph. This one would probably be on the bubble, but I'm being a little bit harsher on my stuff lately, so I don't think I'm going to put this one in. And then this one, obviously, I didn't get around to even drawing the mouth in. I have a lot of drawings in this batch where I spend so much time saying, oh, wait, the skull is this shape, or it should be that shape. And I'm futzing around with it that I never really get around to finishing details. Like, this is another example of those where, didn't get around to drawing any pupils. The mouth is just a line as opposed to actually having lips. I think the only thing I really got fleshed out was the nose. Yeah, this drawing would probably be close to one that I would put on the blog, but I just feel like there's some indistinctness on the right-hand side of the skull that isn't clearly defined. In terms of, even though, she has hair, but using the hair to describe volume, which I didn't accomplish here. Now, and this one, just bad. There's a distortion. You don't get a sense of the structure of the jaw, and it feels like the jaw is on one plane and the nose is on another plane, and the mouth is on yet another plane. And these are all things. This is a good drawing for me to save to study and redraw and try and understand why I made these mistakes. And part of the reason for me talking about all these things with you guys is because I don't want to just sit here and bitch. I've said this many times. Tearing yourself down doesn't do any good. Being able to look at your work critically and say, this is why it's wrong. Let me try and fix it. That's the value of this. So I'm getting a big stack of drawings that I'm going to be redrawing. I think I've already pulled 3 aside, and I've got a bunch of figure work that I need to do also. So I think that may be the only ones I'll pull. And these are just studies that I was just doing. Like, I think the model had taken a pose and I didn't do a good job of it. And a lot of times I'll look and say, well, what is the skeleton, or in this case, skull, doing underneath? Being able to look at the bone structure of a drawing that didn't come out well is usually pretty helpful. But yeah, I'm not going to post any of these. There's nothing in these that I feel is particularly helpful or expressive. And for me, that's kind of the big thing that makes me decide whether I'm going to post something on my blog. I think I'm repeating myself a little bit, but does it make you feel something, or does it explain or teach something? Or is it an example of me learning something? So, yeah, probably the same here. There's nothing particularly interesting about that one. Same here. Another pretty unfinished drawing. This one's not bad. Simple portrait. I'm not 100% happy with the hairline, with the part is, but it's decent. It's decent. And that's kind of sad that's the best thing I can say about certain drawings. It's like, oh yeah, it's decent. I think this was the same model, and this is just a longer pose. This was probably like the fact that I used up the whole page means it was either a 10-minute pose or 15-minute pose, because I actually have a weird thing that I do in figure drawing classes where what I will do, I'll post this one just because it feels like it's got a little bit more render and finish to it. But what I'll tend to do is I draw by size depending on the time. Like this is the whole sheet My hand's just a little bit, there's a couple inches above, but not a whole lot. The whole sheet is, I don't think these are 18 by 24s, are they? Yeah, I think these are 18 by 24s. But what I'll do is I'll draw like a 5-minute pose will be like less than half of the sheet. Maybe it's like a quarter of the sheet. And then an 8-minute pose, I may make like, 2/3 of the sheet. Anything longer than that, I'll just take up the whole page. So depending on how much time I have will determine how much of the space I will take up with the drawing. And if I had done a decent job of defining the underside of the chin, I would probably post this one because this feels like it's a decent drawing in terms of what's going on with the face proportions and the mouth. And even the top of the head isn't well defined, but overall it's not bad. However, that underside of the chin is just killing it. And that's okay, because sometimes looking at these things and seeing me do something wrong over and over and over again makes me spend more time focused on it, which I'm going to try and do. Obviously, the underside, the chin, and the neck is something I've got problems with. This drawing is still not structurally great, but it's got a lot of character, so I think I will post this one. That goes into the feeling side, which oddly enough, if you look one drawing over, I probably, usually working left to right, I probably drew this one first, and then the next pose model took, I did this. And this one, I'm sitting here and I'm struggling with the structure. You can see how horrible the structure and the volume, the proportions of the skull are. And even again, that problem of the mouth being slightly off axis from the facial plane, that's all going on in here. It's a pretty bad face. And the next one comes up and feels a lot more finished. And that's something I've been struggling to figure out is why is it that some drawings come together and some drawings, like literally just 5 minutes later, it seems like I cannot draw at all. And concentration, I think, plays a big part in that. None of these are horrible, but none of them are particularly worthy of including. Concentration. I stopped listening to music. I stopped listening to my headphones during class. It used to be that I would try to shut out all of the noise around me. None of these I'm happy with. All of them, like the nose, the face, they're just poor structure. I think this would fall into drawings where I was not concentrating. I've found that if days when I don't really feel focused, maybe I'm tired, I haven't been getting enough sleep, maybe I've got stuff on my mind from work or comics, but for whatever reason, if I go into figure drawing class and I'm not focused exactly on what's happening in front of me, being attentive to the model, the expressions and the poses that the model is giving off, what they are trying to communicate to me and their mood and their vibe. If I'm not actively reaching out and trying to connect with them, then most of the drawings come out like crap. And it used to be that I would just listen to music, and none of these are going in either. Pretty rough, loose ones. It used to be that I would try to listen to music to block everything out, block out all sound around me, and just try to go inward. And what I'm realizing now is that maybe instead of trying to go inward, I need to go outward more, and I need to be more present in the room. So it feels a lot more like trying to meditate before I get to class. Sometimes I'll just not even listen to music in the car while I'm driving to class and just sit and think. And these are all just more like structural notes. So I don't think there's anything in here that I'm going to put on the blog. But yeah, trying to be more present, trying to clear my mind before I get into class so that when I'm there, by the time I get to class, hopefully I'm not dicking around. I'm not mentally all over the place. I'm trying to get myself into a spot where I'm mentally receptive to what's happening in class, what my instructor is trying to teach, things that I'm trying to accomplish, and trying to run through a list of, well, what are the things that I personally know I need to work on, even if the instructor isn't calling me out on them. This is another drawing that, the nose and the mouth, the nose and the eyes are good. I didn't get it with the mouth. A, it's not finished enough, but B, it's within the right proportions, but the shape and the volumes just aren't there. It's not volumetric, and that's a lot of what I struggle with, is having drawings where one piece will be working, and then one piece is just sort of just wah-wah, just it's not there. Same here. poor proportions, particularly with the shape of the skull. I almost feel like I need to go all the way back to the absolute basics and start over again with just pure volumetric shapes and not even bother with real features, only just the shape of like a nose or a mouth. Like in terms of shape, I mean almost like it's just a block that I'm drawing, as opposed to really going after human forms. Like I need to get back to simple volumes and having those volumes feel convincing. Let's see, same model, same night. I do kind of like this drawing. I think I'm going to put this in a maybe pile. The other thing I'm realizing is that as I'm posting more, and this is me going through like during class and doing a drawing and feeling it's not there and saying, all right, what were the things I was missing? And me trying to figure out how do I convey that change of plane, the, the muscles underneath the cheekbones. And I definitely didn't get a good job of conveying the underside of the chin. I mean, the underside of the neck beneath the jawline. And I was trying, I guess, to more understand that in terms of if that whole area was just a large volume that's turning away from you, as opposed to just trying to describe with soft tone here, just saying, all right, there's a shape underneath here and it's lighter, it's darker than the shape that's up here, so it's turning away. But I didn't do myself any favors by making it as dark as I did. So that's another thing, is where sometimes I get too over eager in terms of describing stuff and I go too dark with my tones, when I can describe a plane shift with and it can, this turn is not as hard as it is, but if I had described that turn just as hard but with a lighter tone, I think that would have still given me the effect that I wanted. So, things I need to experiment with. The class I'm taking right now is Heads, Hands, and Feet. I mentioned before, it's taught by Carl Ganas at the Animation Guild. Here's a few hands. You know what? I think I might put this hand in because I kind of like this one. And it's interesting. Like this one, it feels like these two fingers are broken. Well, actually, no, it feels like this finger is broken and it's ruining what's going on between these two and this one. But even this one, it feels like the part that should be this pad after the third knuckle or under the third knuckle, it feels like this pad that's here should be a little further up and you should be able to see it coming over. And it's not, this one not working. This one, I think, for the angle and what's going on with the fingers, it's not bad. But this one actually feels like a decent hand to me. And part of that might be these little lines I use. I do this a lot when I'm inking in comics to try and convey a turn of a form. And it's not a great thing because it's kind of me using a stylistic trick that I know looks good as opposed to me actually making good drawing. This page is a train wreck. This one is a continuation of the same train wreck. Like I was saying, a lot of the same, just me doing diagrammatic stuff and being like, this is a diagram, but it's a crappy diagram. And that's what I think I was going through a period where lack of concentration, not spending enough time, studying outside of class. I like this drawing. I think that one will go in. The rest of these suffer from the same problems. This one's not horrible, but there's no sense of the back of the skull and the neck is too skinny. But I don't think that makes up for, or having those good elements isn't necessarily enough for me to make it want to include it in my blog. Yeah, more of the same. These are studies from demos in class. This one I kind of like, only because of the volumetric cross-hatching going around, not cross-hatching, but contour hatching, going around and drawing the contour of the part of the throat going in with going in between the two muscles on the outside of the neck. But, nah, not so much. Kind of the same here. Bad structure. This one I would say is actually not that bad, but the fact that I didn't get to any type of hair or other features makes me, well, you know what? Hair features be damned. The actual volume of the head feels decent to me. Not perfect. Yeah, I think that if this line were thinner, I'd be happier. Like I went a little bit too hard in defining that shape, and it should probably feel like, because of you can see so directly how much I chose the light source coming from this side. That's why the thickness of this line defining the top of the skull bothers me. That's more of a comic book inking thing than anything else. I mean, true for figure drawing as well. But that said, in terms of just a simple volumetric study of a head, it's not bad. I think I'll include it. Let's see, more hands. Nah, I don't like any of these. They're not horrible. Oddly enough, I feel like my hands are coming out better than my heads in this class. And this is me just making a diagram trying to understand, in terms of trying to improve proportion, looking at a form and saying, where do elements line up? Trying to use, because I've been trying for years to really think in terms of three-dimensional volumes, but it really does help to look at the two-dimensional plane as a measuring tool for a lot of these elements. So it's just a little diagram for me to start examining different landmarks and saying, well, how does this landmark line up to that landmark? How does that landmark line up to one over here? And just kind of like, you know, triangulating all the different body parts. I don't think that's necessarily for the blog, but I think I'll hold on to it for me. And this was something where I did not necessarily capture it in the drawing, but I had sort of a revelation in terms of looking at clothing and trying to say, well, if I'm trying to capture the dominant volumes of, say, like an arm as a cylinder or as a rectangle, and looking at the actual piece of clothing and say, well, what is the dominant shape of this thing, whether it's a sleeve or a pant leg or the crotch or a t-shirt, like saying, what is the dominant shape of that thing? And then just trying to describe the volumes of that dominant shape, the parts where it turns away, where it recedes, where it catches light. So that's not really for the blog, but I think that I will probably photograph that for notes for myself. And this is a pretty poor figure drawing that I did a second study of, I think, while the model was on the break, that's equally poor. You know, and same with this one. Something that I've been struggling with lately is a lot of these problems are me drawing too slowly. I'm not getting down to the nitty-gritty. I don't get down the basic forms quickly enough to move on to something that's a little bit more finished. And again, when I say finished, I don't mean that I'm trying to draw like a gallery-worthy piece. I mean that I'm trying to describe the figure in all of its forms and elements. I'm trying to make a drawing that communicates, that displays my understanding, because that's the whole point of these classes. It's not to make beautiful pieces, it's to learn. So it's almost like I look at each drawing as, how can I show what I know about the form? Or if it's clothing, how can I show what I know about drapery and the figure? Yeah, these aren't going in the blog either. It's almost like I feel like I should just presume that they aren't going in the blog unless I tell you they're going in the blog. Because most of these aren't going in the blog. But yeah, so it's almost like with every drawing, I'm trying to convey, what do I know about this? Like, what do I know about showing a transition from an arm coming down slightly forward to it, turning angle and coming and being slightly more? And how can I describe that with the folds of clothing? Or showing where a torso crunches a little bit, going from the rib cage into the lower abdomen. This is horrible. It looks like a bad puppet. It's like a broken dummy. I've got a cat looking really sad just off camera, wanting to play and like bring one of her toys. Like, come on, stop talking to people. These aren't bad in terms of being a little bit more volumetric in terms of describing what the clothing is doing here, but I don't think adds anything to drawings I've shown in the past of similar material. And I would say the same of this one. And this, I specifically in class saw that I had a drawing that felt like it was going really well. There's a lot of dynamics in terms of the folds, in terms of it folding up over here, the way it came down off of the knee and wrapped around the calf. He's wearing really baggy pants and also stretching down here. And I got to all of this and I specifically called it out as lazy because when I tried to describe the volumes of this leg, because it was like his knee was coming down and his leg was coming at us. Not like a full-on foreshortened view, but it was coming at us. And trying to draw the material wrapping around that, and I just butchered it. There was no observation. You can do one of two things when you have that angle. You can either carefully observe what the form is doing, what the folds are doing, and describe it, or you can make it up so that it convincingly describes what you feel the volume is doing. I did neither of that. I just butchered it. In fact, I think this one is worth putting in the blog because it shows a drawing that's pretty good, but has like a flaw in it and me calling out the flaw. I seem to be really big on like calling out my flaws. I don't know. Maybe it's my form of self-deprecation. Let's see. Nah. I do actually like this one, but there's so little context that it feels really, really weird. And in the class, we're encouraged to just pick an area if we're studying costume and drapery and just focus on that. I don't feel like this is a bad drawing. It's an interesting study of that exercise, but it also just feels really weird. This one I like. And this is interesting in the sense of, I just said that it felt disembodied. The previous one looked disembodied and it felt weird. This one is disembodied in the sense that you've got a head, you've got a form, but her, one of her arms is hidden. She's turned away. Her legs are not drawn at all. They're just little light marks, barely indicating that. But the part that is shown gives a sense of the volumes of her pelvis, her back muscles going away up into her upper body and her head. Like this one, I think I will post. And it does what I would hope what I try to strive for in class, which is that it describes, it expresses, it shows me trying to understand these elements. This is a cute pose, but poorly described and rendered. There was another hand here kind of pulling a hood, grabbing on a hoodie. This one, the model from the back with just the hair, and it just feels so abstract. I don't think it's horrible, but it feels super abstract. This one just feels a little bit too cartoony, not enough actual real volumetric description. I gotta get back to working on those primitives. This one I like because of how little extra tone I threw in there. Like, I don't even know what's going on over here behind her. But the fact that so many of my drawings, I do so many construction lines, and I enjoy construction lines. I like them. I'm into them. But I tend to overuse them and render too much. Not even rendering. Rendering is the wrong word. I do too much construction that isn't actual beneficial. It's construction. It's like hatching for hatching's sake. This one is a little bit more minimalist. I just get down to drawing just what is needed to describe the torso or the elements of the torso that I want to. And that's something that I try to encourage myself to do more of. I kind of like the study of this torso, even with the hand being indistinct. I think that this one may go in. And this one I like. This is one of those that's more of a loose, unfinished drawing that, and I always feel bad that I never get the models' faces in a lot of times, or I rarely do unless we're specifically drawing faces. But I feel like this one captures both the gesture of the figure and the volumes of the folds. The folds could be better described, But for what it is, I'm fairly pleased with this one. So this one I think will go in the blog. I may use that one for the thumbnail for the video. Nip. We are almost done here. Nip. And no.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please like and share them. Visit my resources page for free creativity tools and comic books at resources.jeremy.net. That's resources.gerimi.net. Also, visit my main website, jeremy.net, where you can buy my comic books, art prints, and more. There's also links to my Instagram, Twitter, and other social media accounts. That's it for now. Go be creative.